Hey y'all, hope everybody's doing good. So this video is not transition related. Um, it's actually related to my career. A few months ago, somebody asked a question and they wanted to hear more about my career in cybersecurity and more specifically how I got into cybersecurity. So it took me a little bit of time to get here, but I have a few minutes, and so I wanted to chat about that a little bit. Um, so yeah, cybersecurity and breaking into the field. It's not easy. Anybody that is in the cybersecurity world at all, or follows it, knows that there's a huge cybersecurity skills shortage. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs that are going unfilled, and that number just keeps growing. Um, and it's frustrating because you would think that would make it easy to break into cybersecurity because there's such a massive need for it, but it's not true. The field is really elitist. It is not easy to get in um, because nobody's or very few companies are willing to hire people that need training. If you are not already in cybersecurity, they don't want you. They want somebody that can hit the ground running, can start producing day one, um, and there are very few entry level roles. And even the roles that say they're entry level aren't entry level. They say, oh, entry level engineer needed, 5 years of experience, a master's degree, and 16 different certifications. It's really frustrating. And I was not immune to finding it difficult to break into cybersecurity. So, I'll just kind of tell you my story and how I eventually did end up in cybersecurity. And then, you could take that information and do what you want with it. Um, so I didn't start out in cybersecurity or IT. I started out in electrical engineering. At some point, I wanted to switch. So the first thing I did is I took the obvious steps. I became re-educated in cybersecurity. So I went back to school and I got a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. Um, and I did well. I rocked that degree. I learned tons of stuff. I was also doing projects on the side. Signed up for Hack the Box, was practicing hacking, doing competitions, things like that. And so I thought, in my naivety, that I would get a job. Started pumping resumes out. Couldn't even get an interview. Couldn't get anyone to even look at my resume. It was super frustrating. Um, so even with that bachelor's degree, it wasn't enough to get me a job in cybersecurity. So I decided I needed to do more to make my resume stand out. So I decided to start a grad program, start going to graduate school for a master's in cybersecurity, and I started studying to get cybersecurity specific certifications. Even with all that, I was unable to get my resume even looked at. So I decided to take a different approach. I decided to take any job in IT that I could get, literally any job. I wasn't getting cybersecurity specific jobs, but at that point, the only experience I had on my resume for years and years and years was electrical engineering experience. So it was pretty clear I was making a career change, and that just kind of screamed out to everyone as a risk. So I decided to take any job I could in IT. So I got a job that was super horrific and boring in IT auditing. So I got a job as a IT auditor for a company. And my plan was to do either one of two things: either use that job to pivot into a cybersecurity role at the same company, or move on and at least have some IT specific experience. The reason why I did it that way is because, companies, when there's a cybersecurity role, or really, this is probably true for most things, companies are going to look at internal applicants first. There's less risk when you're hiring an internal applicant They've already been trained in your company. They know your programs, your processes. If you're still there, you're a culture fit. So they would much rather hire internally because it reduces their risk when hiring you. You're already tried and true. So I figured it would be easier to pivot from one role to another role. However, I ended up not digging that job. It wasn't a culture fit, and I had no desire to pivot into cybersecurity. So instead, I pivoted to a different job, also not in cybersecurity. I pivoted to a job in data analytics, and this was actually for an electrical engineering company, but they specialized in software that controls critical U.S. infrastructure. So I got a job in the data analytics where I implemented the software and performed electrical analytics on the software that secured that infrastructure. So again, not specifically in cybersecurity, but it was in an IT related field. In the meantime, I was going to grad school to get that master's degree, and I was getting certifications. Specifically, I was studying for the CISSP, which is like the granddaddy gold standard of cybersecurity certifications. If you have that cert, it proves you know your stuff. I mean, half the resumes you submit, they go through an automated process before a person ever looks at it. And if the letters CISSP are not on that app, you don't even get looked at. So I was studying for that guy and doing grad school while doing this non cybersecurity job, though in the periphery of IT. Still, could not get an interview. It's really frustrating because at this point I've got a bachelor's degree, I've got a granddaddy of all certs, and I've almost got a master's degree from one of the most respected tech schools in the country, Georgia Tech, and I still couldn't get an interview. Then one day, my buddy from undergrad calls me up or messages me and says that he's working for this company as a cybersecurity engineer and they have an opening for another engineer and asked me if I wanted to apply. I was like, yeah. And I kind of told him, how I was struggling to get into cyber. I couldn't get anyone to even give me a shot. And he said, well, give me your application and I'll make sure it gets right in the hands of my manager. And so he did that. And I got an interview and I got the job. Just like that. That easy. It was like a 2-week deal. So that's how I ended up breaking into cyber. Here is what I would like, and once you're in cyber, you're in it. Like, not a week goes by where I'm not getting a message from some recruiter. Because once you're in, you're in. If you get into cyber and you can hold a job for 6 months, everyone considers you as tested, tried, and true, and you're in the club. So once you're in, you're in. I've got zero issues pivoting from whatever to whatever job I want at this point. Okay, moral of the story. Getting the job was difficult. But had I not had the educational background and the certifications that I did, I wouldn't have been able to keep that job. So, getting the education didn't get me the job, but definitely kept me the job. So don't hear when I say that, I wasn't able to get a job even after, doing the educational steps, don't hear that as, oh, well, I'm not going to go, receive education in cybersecurity. Don't hear that. You still need it. You're going to need it to do the job for sure. It's just not necessarily the thing that's going to get you the job. Okay, so here's the really important thing. Here's what did get me the job. A personal relationship. The buddy of mine that got my resume into the hands of the hiring manager, we were in undergrad together, like I mentioned, and we were in the same class, a specific class, this digital forensics class. And in undergrad, you can kind of expect, it's a lot, it's not intense like grad school. So with undergrad, you can kind of budget like, oh, I'm going to need about 10 hours a week per class. So you can kind of decide how many classes to take in your route through school. Well, this one fucking class, you guys, it came out of nowhere, this digital forensics class, and it required easily 40 hours a week just to not drown in the class. It was so intense. And I was really digging the subject and kind of obsessing over it because I was so into it, and I had a little extra time that semester. So I had enough time to do really well in the class, but because the workload was so massive, Not very many people were succeeding like that, including my one buddy was struggling, even though he's a super smart. He's more technical than I am. He was having some struggles in it just because of the workload. And so I threw him a bone. We worked together closely in the class. I kind of gave him some hints and tips of, how I found this artifact or carved out this piece of data or, decoded this cipher. And, I threw him a bone. And he remembered. He remembered. That act of kindness and me taking my time to help a fellow student is why my name is what he thought of when this company was looking for another engineer. I 100% cannot necessarily say I would still have a job in cyber had he not thrown me that bone in response to me throwing him the bone I threw him. So if you really want to get into cyber, work on those educational pieces. Get, at a minimum, a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, a minimum. At a minimum, get a cybersecurity specific certification. You don't need to go for the CISSP. Like, you can't even get that until you can prove you've got 5 years of experience on a million different subjects. But definitely go for something like the CompTIA Security Plus. Get those as a foundation. And what's really important as you're doing this is build relationships with people. When you're in school, you're going to be on Discord spaces or Slack spaces. You might be in some spaces in LinkedIn. People are going to have problems. They're going to need help. Be the person that helps. Even if you don't have the answer to their question, take it on like it's your question. Do some research. Offer ideas. Be helpful. Put your name in their mind as a person who helped them through. Because then, inevitably, someone in that group is going to get a job in cyber, or they're already in cyber, which oftentimes is the case. Be the person they think of. In those spaces, let them know as you're helping, like, oh yeah, I'm still looking for a job in cyber. I'm trying to break into cyber. Make that a narrative that is out there, and also make it a narrative that you're a person that takes the time to help people when you didn't have to. That is what is going to get you into cyber. Personal relationships across the board. If you have 10 years in cybersecurity, a PhD in cybersecurity, a CISSP, and your OSCP, anything, if you have every single possible thing that would make you a great candidate for a job, but you're up against somebody's buddy in the hiring pool, the buddy's going to get the job. Period. That's how it is. It's just how it is. It's very elitist. You got to know somebody to get in. And I'm sure there's exceptions, but this same story that I'm telling you is what you're going to find over and over again in cybersecurity. You got to know somebody to get in. So be that person. You've got to get yourself in there helping people so that you're the name people think of. The other thing that's really important, other than that, is get an IT job, any IT job. Like, figure out what amount of money you need to pay your bills, and get a job in IT that pays your bills. If you're a plumber, but you're trying to get into cybersecurity, and the only experience you have on your resume is plumbing, you're not working hard enough to get the job. That's what the hiring manager is going to see, if he even looks at your resume, if he or she even looks at the resume. You've got to show that you want to be in the field. So take any job in IT, even if it's not cybersecurity related. Like, get a job in help desk, get that experience, get a job as a system admin or a sysadmin junior, take an internship, get into databases, literally anything in the IT field to get yourself some experience. Because here's the thing. You're fresh, you're green, you're out of school, you've gained all this knowledge. What you essentially have is a Ziploc bag of puzzle pieces. You've gathered those puzzle pieces and you've worked for them. You've got no fucking clue what to do with them. Trust me. None. You may think you do, but you don't. So you get your first job in cybersecurity, and what happens is, your boss is like, okay, and she dumps out your bag of puzzle pieces on the table. You've got nothing to produce. You need experience to put the puzzle together and produce a deliverable that's useful to your company. So, If you get a job in IT, any job in IT, what's going to happen is you're enabling yourself to start putting portions of your puzzle together, because cybersecurity requires a foundation in everything IT. It touches everything: email, system admin, uh, database, help desk, coding, Git, like across the board. Like you've got to know a little bit of everything. So getting a job in IT, no matter what it is, it's not going to be your dream job, but it helps you to start putting the pieces together ahead of time. And your prospective manager is going to see that you're working hard to gain the experience needed to perform at your job. So that's it. That was my path to cybersecurity. It's not easy. It is not easy. I'm not going to pretend like it is. It'll definitely be easier for you if you already have like cyber buddies. Uh, I didn't. I didn't know anybody. Like I hadn't worked in IT before, so um, you've got to build those relationships and be the person that helped a person, and that's really going to give you a step up in the field. So I hope that was helpful. I don't remember who asked me the question, but whoever you are, I hope that's helpful. Feel free to ask more questions if you have them. I'm always happy to chat a little bit and share my experience. I'm always really honest about my experience. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not, and I'm not going to pretend like something was easier or harder than it was. It just simply is. So beyond that, I hope everybody else is doing well. I'm not sure how many of you are going to watch this because it's not really transition related. But in any case, I hope you all have a good day. Bye.